Okay, so this one is definitely the worst danger you can ever come across while you're here, and it's... What's up guys, welcome back to Mac TV. In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you the top 5 dangers in Pattaya. Pattaya is often considered a more dangerous place than Bangkok or Phuket due to its reputation with a higher crime rate, including issues with scams, theft and nightlife related incidents. All of these dangers that we're going to talk about today come from actual events and real stories from people that I know and I've met here in Pattaya. So we're going to start our way back from 5, starting with the less serious dangers and work our way down to the most serious with the most tragic stories. Now I'm just going to warn you now that there's no light at all in this video, so prepare yourself for some dark stories. Okay, so coming in at number 5 is getting blackout drunk and robbed by ladyboys. So this first one comes directly from a guy that I met here from Sweden. It was his first week in Pattaya and he'd never been here before. He started working here, did his first night and didn't turn up to work the next day. And later in the day, we heard what happened to him. That night he had 2 racks and 10 Jaeger. That night he had 2 racks, which is 10 shots and a few Jaeger bombs, which must have been too much for him as it pushed him over the limit. So he wakes up the next day in some grim short time room on the outskirts of town, in the middle of nowhere. He's looking around thinking, where the hell am I? This is his words as well, not mine. He hears somebody in the bathroom flushing the toilet and out walks a 40-year-old ladyboy. He starts to panic, he grabs his stuff, he starts looking for his clothes, and next thing you know, she bolts it out the door. He panics, he realises his phone, his wallet, all his jewellery have gone. He quickly puts on his clothes, he runs out the door, half naked, starts chasing her down the street. She jumps on a motorbike taxi, tries to go after her. She gets away. He then does the normal thing that you would do, go to the police station. He gets there, he tells us the police just laugh at him and tell him to go away. He never came back to work after that day and nobody saw him again. I'm not even sure why he told people this story, to be honest, as he just made a fool of himself. Probably not the first guy and probably not the last guy this has happened to in Pattaya. Now these ladyboys can be quite smart and cunning when it comes to doing stuff like this. They'll befriend these people who've just got here, they don't know the surroundings, they're naive. They'll give them drinks while they're already wasted and then they wake up in situations like this. I've heard multiple stories like this from loads of different people, but this was the most funny one, so I thought I'd share it. Funny, but not funny. Okay, so coming in at number 4 is disrespecting the locals. This one has a sad ending, but it's a pretty good story to tell because this is the actual story and the reason why they had to get security on all these party streets. So about 10 years ago, they never had security on all these party streets, and if any trouble kicked off, it was up to the managers to deal with it. So the story goes, an American guy was partying in the bar one night. He came over here, he was getting drunk, he was spending some money, and he was being aggressive with one of the ladies. Another local on the other side of the bar saw what he was doing. He was pulling the lady by her arm, grabbing her around the neck, and just being a dickhead basically. And the local that was in the bar didn't like what he was seeing. He went up to the guy, confronted him, told him to stop, and then the American guy, he got pretty angry. Anyway, they started fighting. The manager couldn't do anything about it. You know, 2 big guys, 1 manager. What actually happened was the local ended up pulling a knife out and killing him in self-defense. And after that, they decided they needed to get security for these party streets, because if anything happens like that, it's not good, is it really? So now the security on all the party streets, all these guards, you can see what they're wearing by these vests that they've got on with guard on it, security, and if anything does kick off, they're there to help people. But 10 years ago, there was none of them. For all those managers out there, it was up to you to stop any trouble like this. So I guess the moral of this story is just don't be a dickhead while you're here. You're a guest in someone else's country. The locals aren't going to tolerate this type of behaviour. If you're acting like this, it's going to have repercussions, so don't do it. Okay, so here we go. Number 3, big unexpected bills. So this next one is another good story, and it can happen to anyone. So I was chilling in the bar one night, and these 3 guys walk in and tell me how their mate had just fainted and dropped to the floor in another bar. He was rushed to the hospital, and then they left that bar and then came to the bar I was in to relax and try and deal with the situation. Turns out this guy had some underlying health issue. He was in his 40s, a bit of an older guy, and he did actually have health insurance. So he thought while he was on holiday, if anything happened, he was actually going to be okay. So they're sitting in the bar, they're all trying to deal with the situation, operation, and then they get a phone call from the hospital, and the hospital tell them that they need to pay an extra 100,000 baht, which is about $2,700, as a deposit, because they've already used the defibrillators or something to try and bring their friend back to life. And neither the guy or his friends had that sort of money on them at the time, so they ended up having to borrow money from all the friends and the families back home to pay for this guy, get him treated, and to get him out of hospital. If you have got any underlying health issues and you want to go party like there's no tomorrow, just be aware that there are big unexpected bills that you can come into contact with. Don't think just because you've got insurance you're going to be covered, because I know for a fact that there's always extra bills that you're going to need to pay that you might get back, but not for a couple of months later. It's never going to be covered with just your health insurance. I do think it's kind of crazy though how you can get health insurance, come away on holiday to a place like Pattaya, you have a motorbike accident, you have any sort of problem, got health insurance, you think everything's going to be okay, and then you have to pay an extra $2,000-3,000 to cover the costs. Pretty crazy, and that can be a real danger to some people, especially if you're out here alone. You don't have many friends or family that can help you cover these kind of bills, because then it's a matter for, I don't know, the police to deal with, and you don't want that. This next one is even worse than the last, and it makes me sad to this day. Now, you've all heard the saying that love is dangerous, and in Pattaya it's even more dangerous. I met a really good friend about a year ago called Ben. Ben used to come and see me every single day in the bar. He would come and buy me drinks and buy all the girls drinks all night long. He was a really nice guy and he had a really big heart. Now this guy Ben, he came out here, he left his home country back in England because he was fed up. Dad died, he was a bit depressed, and he wanted to come out here to have a good time. Ben had a lot of money in his back pocket. He would show me photos of his estate and his bank account, not in a showing off way, but just, you know, he wanted to share his story. He was a really friendly guy and he liked to talk. He would come and see me every day, and then one day he didn't show up, and he told me that he'd be chilling with a girl that he met in a bar up the road. About half an hour had passed, we were chilling, having some drinks, and then this girl comes in and says she misses him, she wants to see him. So Ben, being the nice guy that he was, finishes his drink. He tells the girl he'll be up in a minute, so he goes and sees the girl. So about a week goes by, I haven't seen Ben. He comes back in again and he tells me he's been chilling with this girl all week, he really likes her, she's different, all that story. And then he tells me it's a birthday next week, and he wanted to buy her a new iPhone because the phone she had wasn't very good, and some jewellery as well. You can already see where this story's going. So about a week passes, I haven't seen Ben again. He comes back into the bar and he starts telling me how he's bought her a new phone, he's getting her a motorbike for her birthday, he's brought her some jewellery. I start to tell Ben to be careful with what he's doing because he was a bit naive. This girl was obviously pulling the wool over his eyes. So about an hour or two passes, and then this girl and a friend and a mom come storming into the bar and saying, Ben, come with us, you gotta come with us, we miss you, we want you back in the bar. Ben, being the nice guy that he is, agrees to go with the girls again because he didn't want to cause a fuss and he didn't want to upset them. So he goes off with these girls again, and this is like the third time that they've dragged him out of my bar and into another one. About a month passes by, I haven't seen Ben at all, and then he comes into the bar, he's very upset, he's talking to me about how he gave his card to this girl and a mom because they needed to buy some stuff for their home up north. He gets the card back and there's next to nothing left on it. He's pissed off, he's angry, and he doesn't understand why any of this has happened. He starts telling me he was being a nice guy, he doesn't know why they're taking advantage of him, but I told him time and time again, but he didn't listen. Anyway, he goes to the bar, he tries to talk to him, he starts getting a bit upset, a bit angry about where all his money's going, and then next thing you know, he's banned from that bar. The girl and a friend have told the security not to let him in because he's crazy. So now this poor old guy Ben, who's come here to enjoy himself, have had these two girls take advantage of him, spend all his money, and now when he tries to go and see him, he's not even allowed in the bar, he's not allowed anywhere near it. The security tell him he's not allowed in because the girl says so. So this girl and a mom have completely rinsed him basically. That night he stayed in my bar for a few hours, he had some drinks, I told him it would be okay, I told him he's got to be careful. I gave him the whole speech. I told him to be careful with what he's doing with these girls because these girls can see these people who are naive and who have got money, and they will take advantage of you if you're susceptible to it. So a few days pass, I haven't seen Ben, and then I start getting messages from Ben's friends back home in England saying, have you seen him? Where is he? Can you make sure he's okay? I messaged them back saying, sorry, I've done what I can. I've tried to tell him what to do, what not to do, but he's an adult at the end of the day. There's only so much I can do. About 6 months have passed now and I haven't seen or heard from Ben. I suspect he had to go back home to England. I don't know what happened to him. It's a bit sad really, but yeah, the moral of the story is just be careful, don't be naive. Girls will rinse you for everything. If you come over here splashing your cash, talking about how much money you've got, showing pictures of your cars, your estates back home, they're going to treat you like an ATM. Don't believe what they say, don't believe what they tell you, because some of these girls can ruin your life in a matter of weeks. Okay, so the number one worst danger that you can face while you're here in Pattaya is getting locked up. Now there's a bunch of reasons why you can get locked up out here, whether it be fighting, drugs, anything like that. And this can happen wherever you are on holiday, but this one really takes the bacon. So I was in the bar one day and these two Brits walk in. They sat down, they buy a drink, it was pretty quiet. So I went over to them to see if they was okay. They started to tell me about how their friend had just come over from the UK because they were pestering him, saying he's got to experience Pattaya at least once in a lifetime. He came here because they kept on and he ended up coming here. Now this guy had a wife and 2 kids back home and he didn't want to come to Pattaya in the first place, but his friends insisted that he had to come, so he came. Now at the time when he arrived, his 2 friends had already been there for a month and they had to do their visa run to Cambodia, so he didn't want to stay in Pattaya alone, so he went with them. So they stayed in this shady place on the outskirts of Phnom Penh in Cambodia. They went out to a bar one night, they had a few drinks, and the new friend ended up going back with a girl. So they told me what happened. He went back to this girl's room, he had a shower. When he got out the shower, there were 2 policemen stood in the room and they arrested him for going with an underage girl. Now as the police was there instantly and already there, this was obviously a setup. The guy had no idea what was going on. He's been set up, he's been stitched up by these police for money or whatever. And this poor guy that came to Thailand, that didn't even want to come here in the first place, that's got a wife and kids back home, is now in a Cambodian jail. So the guy's now been arrested, he's still in Cambodian jail, and his friends are distraught. They're thinking, what the hell have we done? And I don't know to this day if he got out or what's happened, but it's a pretty dark story. I guess this can happen to anyone being stitched up or set up. When you go to these shady places on the outskirts of town where there's not that much money and people try and do things to get money from, you know, susceptible tourists, they know how these places work and these things can happen to anyone. Now I know this happened in Cambodia and not Thailand, but these things can happen anywhere and you've got to be careful. I can only imagine what the phone call was like when he had to call his wife back in England and tell her what's happened. So I hope you've enjoyed these videos about these top 5 dangers in Pattaya. If you're here or anywhere in Thailand, remember to be careful because there's a lot of shit that you don't want to get involved with. If you want to support the channel, you can buy me a coffee. There's a link in the description. Cheers guys, peace, see you in the next one.